Hello everyone, welcome to another video. We are here at BDS headquarters and I was going through some things that I'm doing for myself. So today it's a Saturday and I'm doing a bit of a sleeper for myself, not for BDS, just for me personally. You know, I was going through the things that I've done, where I started, you know, like I dynoed the car when I bought it, start playing with it. I've done a few things to it already, not a lot, it's nowhere near where I want it to be, but like it's, I think, what I have achieved so far on it, which is very little. Like, I don't mean achieve in terms of power, I think in terms of the things to be seen, in terms of what power the car is making and the way it's behaving with the added boost and stuff, comes hand to hand with the previous things I tried to show you guys on the boost video that I've done earlier this year. So I think it would be nice to share with you guys what the car is doing, like what it does with boost, without boost, so everyone can see exactly like what's going on and what boost actually does. So, well, as I just said, it's a turbo car. Now, it's a sleeper I'm building for myself. It's not going to be involved with BDS, so I'm doing it on my own time. You know, I have a very clear idea of what I want to do with it and where I want to put it on, but it just I've decided to do this video to show to you guys, like, it's very important to not tune an engine regardless if it's NA or turbo. So as I mentioned before, a good NA engine makes a great turbo engine. So in this case the engine works well as a turbo, doesn't do anything impressive, but as an NA engine the performance is very, very poor. So dynamically the engine isn't great, and this is the main thing. So when it was built, it was supposed to be a turbo engine, so but what it does as an A engine, if you remove the turbo out of it, it's, to me, it's really poor performance, you know. So it's a multi-valve engine, so it's 4 valve per cylinder engine, multi-point injection. So in terms of technology, it's there, you know, to what most engines have. So 16 valve, turbo, multi-point injection, you know, it's the core of most engines, like Evos, Subarus, those type of things from a few years ago. They all used to have without valve timing and that nonsense that nowadays you have. It's not actually nonsense, it's very useful, but in here we're just mainly talking about the boost and what the boost does to an engine. So I'm going to start by showing you. So I got the dyno printout. So I dynoed the car when I bought it. So when I bought the car had a broken wastegate. So I've noticed when I picked it up, you know, it's only supposed to have 147 or 150 bhp from factory. But when I was driving it, I really found it was not, you know, it missed something in there. It's like I found it was too slow even for just 150 bhp, and I couldn't feel boost at all. Bear in mind, I had one of these cars before in the past, many years ago. It was proper tuned and all sorts, so this is the reason why I bought another one, because that car had a terrible end to it. So it was when I moved into UK. Cutting the story short, I ended up losing the car. So it doesn't matter, you know, it was a long time ago. It's not something that bothered me, but it's a car I really liked because it's a proper sleeper, you know, it's very unexpected. So I was driving it and I found the car really slow for the power it should have. Didn't really feel boosty at all, like, and then to prove things, it's like I put it on the dyno and then I put a boost gauge in it just to see what it was doing, and it was not really doing anything for boost. So I got things in here, and now there's a few different things. So I got now, when I dynoed it first thing, so it was at 127 bhp and 166 nms of torque. So this is very low. Okay, it's a very low torque figure, very low power figure. And then this proved like there was something wrong on it. Like at the time I didn't quite know, because this was the first ever test. So you can see on here it's 0, 0. So it was actually the first test car done on dyno. I didn't quite know. I knew something was wrong, but I didn't have a boost gauge plugged in or anything, so I couldn't really tell what it was. So I started checking for things that could be wrong with it. Then one of the first things you do, of course, plug a boost gauge in it, which I did, and then found that it made nearly no boost. So what has happened is, now the car is old, and this will show how old the car is. On the wastegate, so it has the stem, it's controlled by an actuator, okay, and the stem of the actuator at the end where it controls the flap was broken. So now there's one thing to this turbo. This turbo is a stock turbo. It's not made to make a lot of power. Like, it came fitted on all the subs apart from a Euro, so the top of the range ones. So it's a turbo that can cope with 240 bhp tops. But you know, it's not a turbo that is big, it's small. And now what happens is, like, the exhaust housing is so small that top end it was actually still making some sort of boost. So we started seeing some boost over 5,000 rpm, but it's nothing crazy. It was only doing like 2 psi. Even with the wastegate fully open, it was still spinning the turbo to 2 psi. Only because the turbo is that small, and it could actually still spin it at that RPM. Very little. So the car was making 127 bhp and 166 nms of torque. Then I decided, because I spoke about that before, saying, you know, let me see if my points are valid and see if actually I take the turbo off the equation completely, how much power does it make, and then how much power does it make when you put the turbo back on it. So I went to the thing and I just disconnected the intercooler, or not intercooler, sorry, the boost pipes. This car doesn't have an intercooler from factory, so that's how old school this thing is. Their higher power version of the things used to have an intercooler, but this one didn't have. So now we got in here the comparison between no turbo at all plugged in to with the turbo connected on. So I took the intake pipe directly off the thing, and you can see the difference what I said. So it actually, top end, it was doing something, not a lot, but it was doing something. So the car NA made 117 bhp and 160 nms of torque. Now if you do an analysis of how bad this actually is, it's like on a 2-liter engine it's making just over 52, or like it's 55 bhp per liter, which is really, really, really bad performance. Now of course when you add a turbo to it, a low pressure turbo, it's going to make some more power. Like, as I said, stock at 0.4 bar, this is meant to do 150 bhp. And now you see, if you guys use the pressure ratio, things that I normally use to calculate what an engine would do without a turbo, which I'll show you here. Calculator, here we are. So we got 117 times 1.4 4 equals, so 163, but bear in mind it should only do this power if intake temp remains the same. Okay, so because it doesn't have an intercooler, it's going to have a much higher intake temp. Now bear this in mind and let's see something funny. So this, minimize this, I go back to this, and now after fixing the car, so let's go to where it was fixed. Here we go. I fixed the wastegate and voila, ta-da! Now in here we had 145 bhp and 214 nms. Now you guys must be wondering, so yeah, so your maths are all wrong because the car is actually making less power than what it should. Yes, but remember one thing, the car doesn't have an intercooler. And the beauty of this is, I added intercooler, I changed the pressures before and after intercooler. So this was only the car fixed to the standard what it should be. So it dynoed 145.9, which is not bad. The car should be close to 150 bhp, but still was lower at the 0.4 bar of boost. And then again, it's like, yeah, but it's not right. No, because it doesn't have an intercooler. And the intake temps are going to be higher. And what the car does, it has an intake temperature sensor, and then it controls the ignition timing towards the intake temp. So when the intake temp gets high, it retards ignition. And you can actually feel the car every time. I've noticed it when it was stock. If I did more pulls on the dyno, the more pulls I had, the less power it made. So this is all because it didn't have an intercooler, turbo is getting hotter, intake temps are getting hotter, so it all gets hotter. The other thing it's important to mention is this is on a summer day. I know it's UK, but it was still a warm day. We had like 25 degrees, which to us it's warm, and like this also has an impact on it. Now, especially over a car that has no intercooler. The good thing about this is I then fitted an intercooler on it, and with the intercooler fitted, this is stage 2 low boost. So here we go. This is what the car has gained after fitting the intercooler into it. So on the same exact boost, it made 162.7 bhp. Let's pick our calculator up. It said to me, with the pressure ratio calculated, I should make 163.8. We made 162.7. Now, this is because we had similar intake temps. So we've seen here, just because I added an intercooler, a very decent gain. So if you go, we can tell exactly how much power we gain. We get 162.7, let's be exact, minus the 145.9. This is equals 16.8 bhp just by adding the intercooler. This is quite a decent gain to have. Now, this is all because of intake temps, okay? And as I said, when the car has an intake temperature sensor, when it feels the air gets hotter, it retards ignition. So, other thing I've noticed with the intercooler was I could do as many runs as I like. The power was constant, so it had variations of 1 to 2 bhp tops. Never really start losing. I had a case where I did 5 tests in a row without intercooler. By the end of it, I had 8 bhp less. This kept on staying within the same bhp, so 160, 162, 160 was the minimum, 162.7 was the maximum. So I always see the best out of the results, and then this is what we're comparing. It's the best out of all the runs. It's not like I only done one run. I've done up to 5 runs, just to see like consistently the values we were getting. So by adding intercooler, this is how much we made. Now in here you can see like the intake temperature is very efficient. So it is not efficient, it's very important. Now, in certain cases, when you have cars that have like A8 and supercharger, those superchargers really heat up the air. They make them really hot. They get really hot. And the other thing with those superchargers is they do take some power of the engine to produce an extra power. Let's say they gain. You have to go like to work the pressure ratio and then take between 10 to 15%, depending on the size of the blower, of the power they could have given if they weren't that type of boost. So this is the thing. Now this is at low boost. Now let's see what has happened when I went to higher boost. So I had a 0.4 and then I had 0.6 bar of boost. And then I'll show you what it does. Now the thing in here is, other thing to bear in mind is, when you see peak torque, the car has a boost controller from factory that does an overboost and then comes down to power. So we're not going to be looking at peak torque numbers, all because that will change. It's not at the same boost because the car boosts higher, but then top end, it's when it flattens the boost curve and comes down to the number, so everything becomes accurate and exact and it's less complicated. So other thing is, what is the pressure ratio? The pressure ratio is the difference between atmospheric pressure and the pressure you see on the gauge. Okay, we can work this in bar, which is extremely easy to work it out, or in pounds. So it's like you just have to work it out. So when you have to calculate the pressure ratio on pounds, you have to put the pressure you see on the gauge. So let's say 14.7, it's 1 bar. If you have like 20 psi, you got 20 psi plus 14.7. And what is the 14.7 you're adding on? It's going to be the atmospheric pressure. So at sea level, atmospheric pressure is 14.7 psi, okay, which is 1 bar. It's not exactly that, but it's very close to that. So you add your 20 psi plus 14.7, and then you divide that value by the 14.7, and of memory that should be around 2.2 of pressure ratio, around that. I know, like if you put 14.7 times 14.7 divided by 14.7, you will have a pressure ratio of 2. So if it's in bar, it's easier, because all you do is the amount you have in bar, you just add 1, which is the atmospheric pressure, and then you have straight away the pressure ratio. And like on the sub, it's very simple. It's 0.4 bar, 0.6 bar, it's the numbers we're going to be working on. We add 1 to it, which is the atmospheric pressure, and then you can multiply the power NA times the pressure ratio you have, usually equates to very close to the power you should make. Now let's delete this, and now let's go back again to prove this again with a different pressure. So to prove this right as well, is like the line will always copy itself. It will look the same if you have everything done right. It will look exactly the same, but just higher the more boost you put on it. And we will see this. In just one thing, remember, is like in terms of the overboost of the car, you just have to forgive it. It's a very old system, so it's when I increased the boost, it really went up high. So it went up to 1.1 bar of boost. So you have a massive peak torque, and then it just falls down. So that's the way it's going to look. But in here, let's close this one, and now we have stock, and then still no intercooler, but the high boost. Where is it? It's here. So this was with 0.6 bar, and it made the 166 bhp. Now, this, like, it's just to show the difference it made, and the curve, it's the same, just stays higher. In here we had this variance, which you also have in here. In here we had something else. It's like, as I said, the car probably was hotter here than in here. Then this is why we experience this. But the curve in here stays flatter, you know, and then comes down. This is the power curve in here. So it's different, but it's consistently. It's just, this is the 200 grams of boost. This is how much it made. Now, other thing you can do as well. So if you go 145, that's how much power it made, divide by 1.4, because it was at it was 0.4 bar of boost. It gives 103 bhp. Now let's see what happens if we time this by 1.6. Now remember, other thing, it's no intercooler this test, so the more boost, the hotter the air comes out of it. 1.6 equals 165 bhp. So on the same efficiency that the engine had at 0.4 bar with no intercooler, we calculated pressure ratio and comes to 165 bhp. The car made 166 bhp. It's quite it's quite a big bit of a coincidence, isn't it? Which always lands where it has to if you work with the pressure ratio. So this is not coincidence, this is science. So you guys have to pay attention to. Generally, I don't do this like I don't calculate this just out of the blue. It's after quite a lot of studying that I've done. Sorry guys, that's it. I had to plug my charger on the laptop. So it's just a lot of testing I've done in the past, a lot of engines I developed, and like I generally done some serious turbo builds in the past. Some of you might know, some others might not. And this is just to reinforce this idea, so people, when they see power, it's very impressive to see an engine doing 600 bhp. If it's on 2 bar of boost on a 2 liter, it's not impressive at all. It means it requires a lot of boost to make the power. So this is the way I analyze things. Now, in here, as you guys can see, there's quite a lot that comes to the same. And now I'll do something so you guys seen this, how it worked. So if you look at it, the car actually, because of the intake temperature, has dropped 12 bhp in efficiency compared to what it did NA, without the turbo blowing on it. So the engine is less efficient when it had no intercooler. Adding the intercooler increased efficiency, and now we're going to see the same again. So I'll show you on high boost the comparisons between one and the other, which is now high boost intercooler. Here we go. So I've done something wrong in here. So high boost, there we go. Let's just compare the high boost power lines, and then come here. Here we are. So this is high boost. So on high boost, the car went from 166 to 187. Very big gain. So the gain is in percentage. Okay, so this is why the gain is bigger now, because it's more boost, so everything goes up. Now let's go delete this, and now we are at 0.6 bar of boost. So we got 187 divide by 1.6. So we're taking the boost out. Remember, the car NA was 116 bhp, so let's see how much is it going to be now. Remember, allow a little bit of movement, up to 3%, I always say. So if it's not the exact same number, it's going to be pretty close. And what we have, 116.8 bhp, which is the power the car has made NA. So to me, this is not surprising, okay, but it just shows like it's an exact science, you know. It's not crazy how similar things are. It's, as I said, it's not It's nothing that is to be a coincidence. It's exact science. This tuning an engine is all science, and I'm sure most of you guys know how much time I spend on tuning the cars and stuff. So you know, like, how long I spend on studying and developing. This is the only reason why I know all of this. And before I checked this on the dyno on this car, like, I knew this before I put it on. But like, when I started doing it and doing all this testing, I was laughing to myself. I said, this is crazy, because it actually is like the science makes it. So it's exact. It's an exact science. Okay, so there's no other way to go around it. Now, since I installed different wastegate on it, a 0.8 bar wastegate. I haven't dynoed the car, but I can have a clear idea of how much power the car is going to make. So all I have to do is time this by 1.8, and then it's like, it might not do the 210, might be a little bit less, but it's within what it's going to be, you know. I would say 205 to 210 bhp at 0.8 bar, it's what's going to make. Now, why am I talking about this? So I'm going to do an approach to the engine. I want to increase the efficiency of it, because as I said to you guys, 115 bhp, it's nothing for a 2-liter NA. And the way I want to do it, I want to go past the 300 bhp. Like, I don't want to do anything too crazy with the car. It's not here to impress anyone. I just want to, I'm doing this for a bit of fun for myself. I want to tune something different, you know, just do something different. I don't want to go crazy. Like most of you know, I'm not very keen on having loads of horsepower. I like something that is a bit of fun to drive, you know, and you can enjoy yourself. And the other thing is, I don't want to lose my license, because I'm speeding, and the faster the car is, the more likely that is to happen. Also, I use this car on very long trips. I really enjoy it. It's an old car. I love a classic car, so it's different. So I'm doing this and documenting everything, just so you guys can also learn something through the process, you know. It's just proving points that are accurate. And as you guys can see, calculator here, it's not lying. So we got all the proofs from the dyno. Everything has been tested, so everyone can understand what it can do. So coming back to it, what I want to do on it. So my main thing with the car is, I want to make decent power, but I don't want to live on boost. And this is the way I approach any engine that I turbo. I think it was not even a year ago now. It's 6 months ago, maybe longer. We had one of our turbo builds been dynoed. Like, before the car was on the dyno, I said how much power the car was going to make to the dyno operator, because I know the guy. And he started laughing, you know. It's just like, is it really going to be that? You know, he started going with that. Now, when the car was dynoed, he actually sent me a message saying, "You're really right. It made the power you said it would make." It's very easy to see, like, the reason why the car makes that power. It just, again, came down to that, adding everything up, seeing how much power it makes NA, how much power would it make turbo. So I put everything into perspective, calculated, seen the differences and everything. I missed slightly the power the car was going to make, simply because they ran out of injectors before they could actually reach the peak power. But I only missed it by 7 bhp, so, which is not a lot. Now, it just showed, like, on that boost, the engine will behave. So, boost, as I said in the past, is an atmosphere multiplier. So, for example, behind me, we have my GT3 race car. So this car, it's supposed to have 450 bhp. So so you guys understand how it will work, if I went to put turbos on this would be an absolute animal. At 1 bar of boost, this thing would make 900 bhp, and 1 bar is low boost in in every single place you can see. So most people, low boost is a bar, then they raise to 2 bars, whatever, 1.5 bars some of them are. But like at 1 bar, this thing would make 900 bhp if it was built for turbo to handle that. So that's a crazy efficient engine. This is the thing, when you add the boost into an engine that is efficient, it makes crazy power. Like, you got a good example, the Honda K20s, everyone boosts them, they crazy results, even at low boost. Of course, they make good power as NA. When you add boost, it just multiplies the power they can produce. And like this is just so you guys can see, like with a dyno printout back to back, before and after, like that actually it's accurate. It's no, maybe it's less, maybe it's more. As I said, if everything is done right, it always has to land there. Now, if you don't have the values landing where they should, it means you most likely have a restriction, either on the intake or on the exhaust. It can be a bad intercooler, or it can be a bad exhaust. The thing is, you come to a point where you start creating a lot of exhaust back pressure, which is going to happen on this car, on the standard turbo. I already have another turbo for it, and I'm going to change it at a later stage. But for now, up to the power it's making now, I think the turbo is enough. So, but in the future I want a slightly bigger housing, and guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to dyno the car again with the boost pipes off, with a different exhaust housing and different exhaust, and dynoing it NA versus turbo. Other thing I'm going to be doing after that is, I bought already another engine that I'm going to be tuning. I'm going to do head porting. The head on its own is very poor on this car, so the CFM, I got CFM reading for a stock head, and it's only 180 CFM, which is very low for an engine with a piston this big. It's a 90mm piston with 4 valves per cylinder. You know, a 318 IS, like an M42, M44 head stock, they go between 210 to 225 CFM, so it's a lot higher on the same valve size. So you guys can see the head, there's some work to be done on the head. The port angle isn't ideal, by no means, but we can change that. So my aim is to bring the head to a better flow rate, let's say to around 230 CFM if I can. If I can do more, better. I'll probably fit a bigger valve. The exhaust ports aren't actually that bad, they flow quite well, very similar to like an M42, M44 head in terms of flow. So M50 is the same, M52, single vanos is also the same. So, you know, I know what that CFM can make. Then after getting the head to what I want, it's going to have one of our intake manifolds, and then probably more aggressive cam. But I'm going to do everything in stages and document every single part of it. So I done Instagram, created an Instagram account solely for this build. Like, some of you will laugh at the car I shows, I couldn't care less. Like, I show something that I really like. If you don't like it, it doesn't really change anything. To me, it's just because it had quite a lot of meaning. So it's a Saab 9000, an old school one, so 93 L-Reg. It's proper old. It needs quite a few things done before I start putting power on it, which I start already changing some of the things, which is what I'm going to do. But I'm going to document everything I'm going to do. But in regards to the build, my thing is not to go too crazy. Okay, so if I manage to make 170 bhp as an NA engine, I'll be very happy, which means at 1 bar of boost, the car is going to making 340 brake. I'm planning to have 2 maps on it, low boost and high boost. High boost being close to the 400 bhp mark, low boost, I'll be happy with 300 bhp, up to 350, it will be fine. The thing of it is just to bring it a bit more to today's standard, a 2-liter turbo, like a Golf R and things like that. I'm not comparing it to a Golf R, dynamically it's impossible to compare, Golf R is a far better car, but engine-wise I can bring it to the same standard or higher, you know. It's just like, I just want to do something and document things, so it's a learning process for everyone. I'm sure I'm going to learn a few things along the way. Other thing is, on a turbo engine, port speed is not as important as on an NA engine. It is still important if you want to make the average power, but like you don't worry as much because you're going to have the turbo pushing the air through. So it's like it's not as relevant. It's already going to make a lot of torque because the turbo is pushing the air through. So it's not like you're going to make a huge difference. So I'm going to focus, even when it's NA, I'm not going to be seeking crazy for the NMs of torque. If it makes 200 NMs, beautiful. If it doesn't, not bothered as an NA. So if it may anything higher than 190, it's a bonus, because like 190 is going to be easy to achieve. The other thing you have to remember, the compression ratio on this engine is lower because it's a turbo, so it's harder to get the torque in. So other thing is the engine, it's over square, so, or under square, sorry. It's so the piston is bigger than the stroke, so they tend to like revving, not necessarily produce a lot of torque at a lower RPM. So this is what's going to be happening. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll post a picture of the car. Go and follow the Instagram thing. It's a brand new thing. I just posted the 2 pictures today with a picture of printouts and a picture of the car. There's more pictures I have to add, but I'll add daily as we go through, and then I'll probably try to do another video on it, or I don't know, you guys can suggest whatever you like to see the car in detail, to see what it looks like, to do a video, walk around it, go for a drive with me. You guys suggest things. Anyway guys, thank you for staying tuned. I hope you enjoyed this video. Once again, I think it's good for everyone to see actually what things do on dyno and things like that. Important lesson for everyone. Again, when you see a dyno printout, then you can just equate the boost versus power and see exactly what the engine's worth in efficiency. Thank you guys, have a nice day, bye bye.